Hello, everybody. I'm here with Gellert from the surf band, the Fintastics. How are you, Gellert?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me here.
Awesome. You're welcome, and thank you for coming on and being patient with my emailing. It can kind of get crazy sometimes when you're talking to multiple bands.
Right.
But one thing I did check out was your YouTube channel, and there's some pretty great stuff on there. What is your I want to say, what is your greatest motivation behind your surf music? Is it to do interpretations of songs, or do interpretations of songs that you write?
That's a great question. So here in Texas, especially in North Texas, surf music is not very well heard of. It's a very small niche of music. Up here, we have country and western, heavy metal, rock and roll cover bands. So with surf music, we try to bring surf music to the masses, to the people in our audience, and show them like, hey, you can listen to Pipeline and wipe out all day, but you can also listen to stuff like from Led Zeppelin and Billy Idol and all kinds of great bands, but kind of surfed out.
Yeah.
So when we started the Fantastics, we're like, let's be a sort of like almost like a Ventures where we can bring popular songs and surf them out, and people will recognize them like, hey, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
So I've never heard this type of music before. So it's kind of a way we started to bring more people into the genre and for them to like it. And we've had a lot of success with that throughout the years. Instead of just having 15, 20 Dick Dale songs, Safaris, and it tends to get a little bit old for some
Yeah.
people. That, oh, it's the same thing over. But with different songs by bands like I said, Zeppelin, Motorhead, Iron Maiden, we brought this to live shows, and people are just loving it.
So what Led Zeppelin song, what Motorhead song do you think is the best interpreted in surf music?
Oh, wow, that's hard because I think with any song, if you write it in the right way, you can kind of surf it out. It doesn't have to match it exactly the same tempo, or maybe not the same full ensemble of instruments. You can kind of like break it down. But the immigrant song that we did on our YouTube channel came out really well. I seen another band on YouTube do it like 15 years ago, and it sounded amazing. So he used a slide for the Robert Plant
Ah,
vocals, and it sounded sweet. But I'm not a very good slide player, so I kind of interpreted the vocal melody lines with the guitar, and I layered some more effects into that video, and I think it turned out pretty good. So the immigrant song came out really good.
awesome. What about Motorhead? Because they have
Motorhead,
quite a catalog.
Ace of Spades.
Yes.
There's no other song by Motorhead than Ace of Spades. People will recognize that in a second. So we surfed that out, and it was a lot of fun too.
How to like you said, people will like kind of turn their head and say, I recognize that song.
Right.
Did they come up to you afterwards and tell you, hey, that took me back to a certain time in my life?
Yes, yes. Actually, not so much as people under 30, but people like 40 and up, and they're like, "Oh, I used to listen to this stuff when my parents were listening to records and things like that, and it took me back to a time when I was a teenager or a little kid and growing up with my father and mom." So I do get some of that. We do get some of those things. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. I have to ask you about that guitar on the on your wall. It's
Okay.
amazing looking.
Yes, so that guitar is a Backlund guitar. Backlund is a guitar manufacturer who kind of makes almost like a George Jetsons type of guitar with different shapes. It's kind of futuristic looking. You can tell by the whammy bar and the hardware. It looks kind of like almost like futuristic, modern, old school type of a guitar.
Like
So that's
Atomic.
yes, like an atomic age guitar.
Yeah.
So I bought it because number one, the color is a great surf color.
Yep.
Number two, it has a vibrato, but Geller, being the silly person that he was, didn't look at which type of pickups it came with. And I thought there were single coils, which is, of course, surf guitar, you have to have single coils. You don't
Yep.
have to, but it's preferred. So the guitar came with humbuckers, and so I haven't used it for a show, but I have used it for recording. So it's an awesome, awesome guitar. Very light, plays well, sounds great.
And um, when you picked up the guitar and you decided you were gonna go down the surf guitar rabbit hole, would you say that was something that came naturally to you, or was there like an instant where you thought, oh, this is doing it for me right now, I want to do that?
So, Ryan, we're talking about when I first started listening to surf music 50 years ago. So I started back when I was just a little boy, listening to 8-tracks with my mom and dad on family vacations. So that evolved into a love of surf music eventually through time. But my first love was the Ventures, and that stuck with me, like I said, for the past 50 years. It's always been in my heart. It's been my number one type of music. And so actually, I wrote down some some notes to talk about that. And so when I turned about 11 or 12, I went to go see Jan and Dean in Chicago. That was my first live show as a kid ever. And I saw Jan and Dean perform at an amusement park. And I love Jan and Dean because they just came out with that movie, Dead Man's Curve, on TV. And
Yeah.
it was the biggest thing ever. And they came to Chicago, and I was begging my parents to take me. So they took me and had a great time. Of course, my dad and my mom were clapping to all the songs, made me very happy. But their backup band was amazing. They were called Papa Do Run Run. And they had like maybe 3 guitar players, a keyboard player, bass, drummer. They had a full 6-piece backup band, and they're amazing. So at that moment, from that one moment, I knew I wanted to be in a surf band to play guitar. And that lasted all my life.
Now, I'm a huge fan of the beach party genre of music. I guess that's what you would call it. The early Beach Boys and Janet.
Yes, Jan and Dean, Beach Boys, yeah.
And while they're not considered surf music, I would definitely say they're like surf adjacent. They're kind of like involved in the same culture. Would you say?
I would say absolutely, yeah. And a lot of the guitar licks the Beach Boys used, it's definitely surf music. They had the tremolo picking and the chord structure and the breaking up of the chords and the melodies of songs. So it ties in very well. They just happen to sing extremely well.
Yeah, yeah. So, what are you doing right now as far as the band's concerned?
So right now, we just had our first show in 2023 this past Saturday, and it went really well. There's only a 30-minute show, and we have 1 or 2 set up, I think, in June and July. And as far as that, past that, nothing much really. We do have a song coming out on Surf Magazine in May, and we're on the compilation CD, which I'm very excited about because I have to get Mr. Evan Foster to give me his permission. And so he did. And so we recorded a cover of one of his songs, and it'll be on next month's magazine, as I said. So other than those things, we don't have much lined up right now.
The Continental, right?
The Continental, yes. I have a
Uh,
copy here somewhere, but I
yeah,
have
I have a copy right over here. Actually, right here.
That's the one, yes. Yeah.
So Evan Foster is a monster on guitar.
He is.
How did you find it was kind of training to play that song?
Okay, so I saw Evan play with the Boss Martians many years ago at the Surf 101 convention, and I'm like, this guy's a beast. He's amazing. But I've never heard the Boss Martians until that show at the Surf convention. So I was front row. I was like from me to almost like you. I could touch him, and I'm like, man, this guy's great. And so he was singing too. So it was sort of like a surf show. And Boss Martians has a lot of vocal songs too. So I was really digging the whole thing. Well, fast forward a couple of years later, I saw him again a few years ago at the Surf Guitar 101, and he played a song, instrumental called Surfer's Anthem. And his fingers were on fire. His fingers were moving so fast, it was just a blur. And I'm like, well, that's a challenge because I love fast picking. I've been in heavy metal bands and rock cover bands for a very long time. And so I know what it's like to fast pick. So
Yeah.
I thought of that as a challenge. And so when I first heard of Surfer's Anthem, I'm like, that's the song I really want to cover by him because it's so good, it's so surfy, and it's very tasty. It's kind of hard to explain. It's very tense. It's got a lot of minor chords in it, and it's kind of like it's like the swell of the ocean. It's like happy and then serious, and happy and serious. So on my YouTube channel, we actually have a video of that song that we were covering. So that'll be on the CD for next month's on the Continental.
Awesome. Awesome. How long was that song in the making?
Oh, that took maybe 1 week, maybe a little. Yeah. Yeah, I nailed the guitar parts in 1 day, and then the bass and drums were over, I think, 3 days. And so it came together pretty quick. Now the guitar parts weren't very easy. It's very fast. So I did take many, many takes to get it just right. But I think it came out pretty well. And of course, Evans heard it, and he gave me his blessings, and he's like, "Oh man, thank you so much, Garrett." I'm like, "Hey, it's no problem. Thank you for letting me release it with with your name on it." And so it was all great.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I talked to Evan, and he's a wealth of knowledge. What was it like for you to go from being um a fan of his, looking up at him on stage, and then having that conversation with him and getting his blessing?
Oh, so that's a big deal because anytime I go speak with someone who's been in the genre, the music for a long time, it's just like I'm being I don't know, it's almost like a religious experience. When I was speaking with Evan, of course, it's through email, it's going back and forth, but I'm like, holy stuff. Evan's talking to me, and I love his music, and I'm covering one of his songs. So it just it's almost surreal, It's like one of my idols speaking to me and saying, "Good job, Gellert. I'm so happy for you." And it's just like, oh, it just makes me all giddy, like little schoolboy.
One of the cool things, I was at SG 101 last year, and one of the cool things about it is, much like punk rock shows, the bands aren't off behind stage. They're mingling with the crowd.
Right.
And so what does that kind of environment mean to you?
Oh, it means tremendous because sometimes when you go to, let's say, a rock show, you see a great band and then they're gone. You don't see them unless they're at the merch table, and you'll see them, buy my $40 t-shirt, and, they'll sign it and everything. But at a surf show, I get to see all my idols, all the musicians I've been listening to for the last however many years, shake their hands, take selfies with them, buy them a beer or a drink. These people know who they are. And yeah, so I get very friendly when I'm at a surf convention and all my friends are there and all the musicians are there. It's just an amazing experience because I would never think that I would be able to sit down and talk guitar picks with my favorite guitar players, or talk drums with somebody that I've been idolizing for years, like Dusty Watson. So meeting these people just casually is just an amazing experience. And SG 101 is fantastic for that. And I think everyone else agrees to that too.
Yeah, definitely. So is there anything you wanna leave us with? Anything else you'd like to talk about?
Let me see. Not not really. I really appreciate you, Ryan, for having these interviews because it broadens the spectrum of the genre, even if it's just a few people here and there. It really does help get the word out that surf music is alive. We have extremely great festivals all over the world, and it's like a one big family. And I just want to say thank you so much for having me. Thanks so much for interviewing all these fantastic people. And really, a big Tiki dude. He's also close to my heart. Me and Jeff go back many years, ever since I started going about 8 or 9 years ago. So just that's it. I'm
Yeah,
just very happy to be in the surf community, the surf music community. It's just a great community to be in.
it really is, and thank you for saying that. I always respond by just saying, um, I don't have a lot of people that relate to the kind of music that I listen to, uh,
Right,
especially like, when you get older and you have your family and then you have work, and,
right, right.
and not a lot of people are listening to surf music. I mean, nobody's listening to surf music,
No, very
uh,
little.
in my family or at work, but there is a ton of people making it, and to be at anywhere near, those people is great. I'm learning this as I go, and meeting a lot of nice people, and a lot of great people, and kind and gracious people, and it's very welcoming, and
It is. It's fantastic. I'm going to be at Surfer Joe in Italy with my wife. So
wow.
yeah, so I'm dragging her along with me. She likes the music, but not as much as I do, So she'll be up there dancing in the front row, and then she'll kind of like meander off and
Yeah.
have a tiki drink with some other women or something. But
Yeah,
I'll be close to the front of the stage as always, because it's in my heart. So I'll be at Surfer Joe in, I think, what is it, 2 months from now,
yeah.
and uh, and then the next month I'll be at Long Beach for the SG 101.
But you have to make sure you come up and say hi, because I'll be
I
there too.
will. Yeah. So I think I saw you, we were watching the volcanics and you're standing right in front of me. I'm like, oh, there's Ryan from the YouTube. But I don't want to disturb you. I'm like, I just let him have his fun and enjoy the music. I don't want
No,
to be tapping you on your shoulder or anything like that.
you are anybody watching this. You are more than welcome to introduce yourselves to me, because I like to meet people. It's why one of the reasons I do this. I would totally love to geek out with people. If I
Yeah.
travel 3,000 miles and I'm watching a band, and somebody says, "Hey, I watched your show." Well, of course I want to talk to you.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So yeah, I met a couple of people that I've interviewed at last year's SG 101, and I was like, oh man, it's so cool to meet them in person.
Right, right. It always is, and they always look a little different in person
Yeah,
than like on a YouTube channel or on Facebook. They're like, "Oh, you look like this in the real world.
yeah.
You look better." You
Right,
can
right,
put
right.
Yeah, you can put a face with a voice or whatever in real
Yeah,
life, and so I like doing that too. I like meeting the fans, not just the musicians, but the fans. I've
yeah,
met, they're just fantastic men, women,
yeah,
when little children dance to surf music, it just warms my heart because
yeah.
they're being raised right by someone who loves surf music, and they got the little headphones on to protect their ears from the big amp. And they're just dancing. It just warms my heart.
The cool thing is, when you go to a big festival like that, is you get to see a lot of the people that keep the machine going behind the scenes,
Right, right.
which is um it's astounding for me, because they're all a wealth of knowledge,
They are. Yes,
from DJ Dotty to Jeff to
yes.
Hunter King.
Hunter King. Yeah,
Yeah, like all the people who play surf music on the radio, seem to go
right.
put on shows, even like in Seattle. They do the Surf by Surf West.
Yes.
Like, those guys came down. I got to hang with them, so it was really cool.
And I hang with them too. When those guys come down from Seattle, I drink beer with them, and we're all, loving life because of that too. Yeah,
Yeah,
a lot of great DJs on the radio, spinning the records all the time. Clint Beachwood, for one, he has a
yes,
fantastic show as well. So I listen to all of them.
that's awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Well, once again, thank you so much. And please, when you see me out there, if I don't see you first, come and say hi.
I will. Absolutely. All right. Thank you, Ryan.